Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The day started like any other, but there was an undercurrent of suspicion I couldn't shake off. As I pulled into the driveway earlier than usual, the familiar clang of tools from the kitchen did more than raise my eyebrows. It set my heart racing. My wife, Lena, had called me at work, her voice a mix of annoyance and urgency, explaining that the kitchen sink had mysteriously broken and she urgently needed funds to call a plumber. Make sure it's someone reputable, I had told her, concerned about both the sink and the cost. She assured me she knew just the person. Don't worry, Mark. I've got it handled, she had said, a little too swiftly. As I approached the front door, the sounds from the kitchen grew louder, more erratic. I paused, my hand on the doorknob, listening. There was laughter mingled with the metallic percussion. Not the laughter I knew from Lena, but something different, unfamiliar, and intimate. Pushing the door open, I was hit by a scene that froze me in place. There, beneath the sprawl of our kitchen sink, with tools scattered like afterthoughts around him, was a man I'd never seen before. His shirt was off, revealing a canvas of tattoos, and Lena was perched on the countertop next to him, a glass of wine in her hand, her laughter too carefree. Mark. You're home early, she stammered, slipping off the counter in a flustered grace. The plumber scrambled to his feet, wiping his hands on a rag as if that could clean away the scene I had just witnessed. Who is this? My voice was calm, colder than I felt. This is Tony, the plumber I told you about, Lena replied, her voice trembling just beneath the surface of her forced calm. Tony extended a hand, which I didn't take. Heard a lot about you, man. The remark struck me oddly. Heard a lot about me. The familiarity in his tone, the ease in his presence, it was all wrong. With a nod, I turned to Lena. Can you explain why the sink needed fixing today, of all days? Her eyes darted between Tony and me, a silent plea for help that went unanswered. I just found it like this in the morning, leaking and everything. I thought it'd be quicker to fix it before it got worse. I stepped closer to the sink, examining it. The pipes were dismantled, yes, but the break seemed deliberate. Anger brewed within me, but I kept my voice even. Tony, can I see your license and the business card of the company you work for? He stuttered, unprepared, and that was all the confirmation I needed. The rest of the evening was a blur of accusations and denials. But the truth had a way of clawing out in the most hurtful ways. Later, after Tony had left and Lena's tears had dried up, I found an old receipt for a hardware store in her purse, not for sink parts, but for tools. Tools that could break a sink, not fix it. That night, in the silence of our bedroom, the pieces came together. The late-night texts, the sudden errands, the whispers over the phone. It wasn't just infidelity, it was betrayal of everything we had built. As Lena slept, I plotted. The pain was too deep, too raw. I wanted revenge, not just to separate but to ensure she realized the gravity of her deceit. Tomorrow, I would begin. The divorce was just a part of it. I would dismantle her lies as she had our sink, piece by piece. And when the final piece fell away, Lena would understand the cost of betrayal. The stage was set. The game had begun. And I, Mark Turner, was both the player and the pawn in a story that would end with the echo of shattered vows. The morning sun barely lifted the gloom that had settled over our home. Lena was still asleep, her face a mask of innocence that belied the storm brewing within me. As I brewed my coffee, my mind ticked through every deceit, calculating the next steps in my silent war. I needed allies and evidence. My first call was to an old college friend, now a private investigator. Jake, it's Mark. I need a favor, a big one. Jake's voice was groggy but concerned. Anything, man. What's up? I think Lena's cheating on me. I caught her yesterday, not red-handed but enough to know something's off. Can you dig into it? Phone records, texts. You got it, buddy. I'll start on it today. You sure though? He pressed. Just find me everything you can on her and this plumber, Tony. Next, I contacted a lawyer, a recommendation from a work colleague. Mr. Hartman's voice was crisp, like the rustle of dry leaves. Divorce is a straightforward process, Mr. Turner, provided you have grounds and evidence. I'll have the evidence, I assured him, my grip tightening on the phone. I want to make sure she doesn't walk away with half my life. We'll do what we can. Gather any financial records and evidence of the affair. It will help. The day passed in a blur of activity. I gathered financial statements, receipts, and other documents. Each piece of paper felt like a brick in the fortress I was building against Lena. Late afternoon, Jake called back. You were right, Mark. Lena's been in contact with this Tony guy for months. Texts, calls, late at night, when you're usually at work. I'll send over the details and proof. Armed with this, I confronted Lena when she returned from work. She entered the kitchen, stopping short when she saw the documents and photos spread across the table. What is this, Mark? Her voice was steady, but her eyes darted nervously. It's over, Lena. I know about Tony. About everything. I slapped the photos on the table. Jake uncovered all of it. How long did you think you could play me for a fool? Lena's facade cracked, her composure crumbling as she looked at the evidence of her betrayal scattered before her. Mark, It's not what you think. I was going to end it. It was a mistake. A mistake. You shattered our marriage, Lena. My voice rose, a crescendo of hurt and anger. You planned this. You broke the sink on purpose. Tears streamed down her cheeks, her usual eloquence lost in sobs. I'm so sorry, Mark. I never meant to hurt you this much. Please. There's nothing to discuss. I've spoken to a lawyer. I want a divorce. And believe me, I'll make sure everyone knows why. My words were ice, freezing the last threads of our bond. As Lena begged and pleaded, I felt nothing but the cold resolve to see this through. My heart had hardened, the man who had loved her was a stranger even to me now. I walked away, leaving her amidst the ruins of her deceit, my mind focused on the next steps. This was just the beginning. The storm was gathering, and I was its harbinger. The rest of my plan would unfold soon, piece by meticulous piece, until there was nothing left of the life we had shared. Her betrayal had set this in motion, but it was my hands steering the ship now, into the tempest, into the dark heart of revenge. As dawn broke, the house lay silent, heavy with the aftermath of yesterday's revelations. Lena had left, presumably to seek solace or perhaps to plot her own course through the impending storm. I, however, had no time for reflection. My path was one of action, carved by the deep cuts of betrayal. The morning was spent in a flurry of phone calls and emails. First to Jake, to thank him for his rapid response and to request constant surveillance on Lena and Tony. I want to know every move she makes, Jake. Every single one. You got it, Mark. I'll keep tabs on them 24/7, he assured me, his voice grim with the weight of our shared purpose. Next, I called Mr. Hartman, outlining the evidence I had gathered. I want the divorce papers ready by tomorrow. I want her served by the end of the week. Very well, Mr. Turner. I'll prepare everything. The more evidence you can provide, the cleaner this will be. Armed with a plan, I ventured out, my first stop being the bank. I needed to secure my financial assets before Lena could attempt any damage. The bank manager, a middle-aged woman with sympathetic eyes, listened as I explained the need for new account protections and restrictions. Let's ensure she can't access your funds, Mr. Turner. It sounds like a difficult time, but you're doing the right thing protecting yourself, she advised as she typed swiftly, securing my life's earnings from further betrayal. The digital clock on the bank's wall ticked in a slow rhythm, marking the passage of time and the widening gap between my former life and my current reality. As I left the bank, my phone buzzed with a message from Jake, a photo of Lena and Tony entering a local diner. The sight of them together, seemingly carefree, ignited a fresh surge of resolve in me. I drove to the diner, parking a block away to avoid detection. From my car, I watched as they laughed and leaned in close over their table. The intimacy of their gestures was a blade to my chest. Fueled by a blend of fury and determination, I snapped several photos with my phone, each click a documentation of their indiscretion. These would serve as further evidence in the divorce proceedings. As they exited the diner, I followed at a distance, my car a silent shadow on their sunny afternoon. They parted ways with a kiss that was all too telling, and I continued to tail Tony, noting his address as he returned home. Later, back at my now too quiet house, I compiled all the new evidence, sending it to Mr. Hartman with a terse note. Add this to the file. It proves ongoing infidelity. That night, as I lay in the bed I once shared with Lena, the room felt cavernous, haunted by the echoes of a love that had turned to ash. The shadows seemed to whisper of betrayal, but in the darkness, my plans took on a sharper, more determined edge. Tomorrow, Lena would be served with the divorce papers. Tomorrow, the world would know of her betrayal. And soon, very soon, my revenge would be complete. The storm I had summoned would break upon her, and from its wrath, I would emerge alone but unbroken. The sharp rap at the door came just as the clock struck 10 in the morning. Lena, looking pale and drawn, answered it to find a courier with an envelope marked urgent. The documents inside, divorce papers served cold, were the first volley in what promised to be a ruthless battle. Lena read through them, her hands trembling, each word a nail in the coffin of our marriage. I watched from the doorway, my presence silent but oppressive. Mark, please, she started, her voice cracking, the papers slipping from her grasp. We can talk about this. We can go to counseling. It doesn't have to end like this. It ended the moment you decided to bring another man into our home, I replied, my voice steady and devoid of the warmth it once held for her. This is just the formality. Her eyes welled up with tears, but my heart was stone. How could you be so cold? After everything? After everything, I echoed, a hollow laugh escaping me. That's precisely why, Lena. The following days were a blur of lawyers, meetings, and meticulously executed plans. Jake continued to feed me information, every detail sharpening the blade of my vengeance. One afternoon, I orchestrated a confrontation that would seal Lena's fate. I invited Tony to a supposed peace meeting at a local park, claiming I wanted to clear the air. Hidden cameras were strategically placed by Jake, ready to capture the meeting and provide the ultimate proof of their ongoing deceit. Look, man, I didn't mean for any of this to happen, Tony said, clearly uncomfortable, his eyes darting around nervously. But it did happen, Tony. You knew she was married, I said, my voice calm but edged like a knife. You helped her lie. You helped her cheat. What did you think was going to happen? I'm sorry, Mark, Tony stammered, his apology as flimsy as his excuses. No, you're not sorry. Not yet. But you will be, I replied, my phone buzzing in my pocket with a message from Jake confirming everything was being recorded. As Tony left the park, looking defeated and anxious, I sent the footage directly to Lena with a simple message, this is who you betrayed us for. I hope he was worth it. The climax of my revenge came swiftly. Lena's personal and professional reputation crumbled as the divorce proceedings unveiled her infidelities and deceit. Her financial stability shattered with the severing of our joint assets, and the community's knowing glances and whispers followed her everywhere. On the day the divorce was finalized, I met Lena outside the courthouse. She was a shell of the woman I had married, the weight of her choices etched deeply into her face. "Mark, I am so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I just lost my way," she pleaded, desperation in her eyes. "You chose your path," I said, handing her the final divorce decree. "And now you have to walk it alone. Goodbye, Lena." Turning away, I felt the final threads of any love I had for her disintegrate. It was over. The revenge was complete, and in its wake, I was left with a hollow victory. The satisfaction I had imagined was instead replaced by a profound emptiness. As I walked away, the sky opened up, a light rain washing over the city, as if trying to cleanse the sordid paths we had both walked. Lena stood in the rain, watching me leave, her life irrevocably altered by her own actions and my ruthless retribution. We would never see each other again. The betrayal was too deep, the revenge too harsh. The hatred of betrayal had severed what was once unbreakable, leaving nothing but whispers and shadows in its wake.